Welcome to another conversation in People in Fundraising. This podcast features interviews with nonprofit professionals who discuss their career journeys, lessons learned, and enthusiasm for working in fundraising. And here is your host, the founder of People in Fundraising, Tim Wilson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, January 26th, 2026, and I'm very excited today to welcome Mike Denkers to our podcast, People in Fundraising. Mike and I got connected through my coworker, Emily Heaton at Weber State University, and I'm so excited for our conversation today because Mike has various touch points in the philanthropic sector. You're also our very first guest to be serving on family boards, foundations, when we're recording, and I think your perspective will be really interesting for our audience to hear. So, Mike, if you can just take a quick moment here, please, and tell our audience a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get into our questions.
Yeah. Oh, table expectations, right? Table expectations. Now, my name's Mike Denkers. My family is the Eccles family here in Salt Lake City, Utah. My great grandfather was Willard Eccles, and back in late 70s, early 80s, before he had passed away, he set up a foundation with him and all of his brothers. So all the Eccles boys end up setting up their own philanthropic foundations a really long time ago. And it was very much on the ethos of, our family came from Scotland in the 1800s, and the people that helped us, we need to be those people to the next people. So all the foundations were always set up to be, philanthropic giving and not just pass wealth down around the generations. And we've been doing it a long time. My earliest memories of being at fundraising events for the University of Utah, I had to have been 4 or 5 years old, and it's basically as soon as a suit would fit me for more than one event, and my mom didn't have to buy me another one, I was pretty much going to fundraising events. But I always liked them. It was always something I really cared about. It was always fun and exciting. I don't know why, as a young kid, I found that was interesting, but I think people were very nice and safe and protective. So it felt like a great environment to be in, and I've just latched a hold of that for my whole life. I remember always itching to get into board meetings, even when I shouldn't be in there. Um, but no, I've taken my philanthropic background to kind of more of a professional level, probably right around 2019, right before COVID,
Okay.
because you really don't make money serving on a board. It's not a full time job for me. So I have a background in construction and real estate, and as soon as the bug kind of bit me that it actually was more of my passion, I needed to get out of construction, and get into the philanthropic space more full time. It took a year or two, and then a really unique opportunity came along where Salt Lake Community College had their tech college, and they were going through a transition where the tech college was not an accredited tech college for the state of Utah, and Utah basically said you need to transition, or we're going to open up the valley to a new tech college.
Wow.
And in doing that, the at the time the executive director for the foundation of Salt Lake Community College, Nancy Mahalko, kind of recognized that one, community colleges as a whole really haven't done private fundraising for longer than 7, 8 years, maybe now about 8 years. So it's already not normal. But for a tech college to also have its own dedicated fundraiser is really not normal, but it needs it. I mean, we're in the most important county in the state with the most population. We need to start having a good tech college. So they transitioned into an accredited tech college. They created and opened a position for me that hadn't existed to come help them do the change and help them create a fundraising strategy for the tech college. And I pretty much went around for a year and helped all the deans and associate deans and the professors with learning about, an associate dean or a dean can be your best fundraiser if you do it right. So, but just teaching them what private philanthropy looks like. It's not federal grants. This is a very different ballgame, but the impact can be a lot more directed and a lot easier access sometimes because you need money. You can probably get it fairly quickly if you get the right donor. So that was an amazing experience. That changed course of my life, and I will not go back. I'm in this world forever. So I've been on the 43 Institute, which is the Ken Block Foundation. Ken Block was a founder of DC back in the day, and he sold the Quicksilver, and then he kind of semi-retired, and he was like, I want to go drive rally cars, and he started putting his rally car videos just online. And I mean, it's a whole amazing story, but essentially he launched another really large brand, but he sold in 2022, and January 2nd, I want to say, of 2023, he passed away on an accident on a snowmobile up in the mountains, Uintas of Utah. And his family and his friends just pretty much immediately jumped off an opportunity to start the 43 Institute. And so I was added to the advisory board fairly early on, and went full time in September, running all development and fundraising. So that's what I currently do. So I am a fundraiser. But we are a pass-through foundation, so I also still award money through that foundation. But the pass-through is interesting. It's a new to me, and I think it's new in the trend of philanthropy and nonprofits, because we understand that there's a lot of really amazing nonprofits in the world, and we don't need to go start a whole nother new set of programming. We just need to go work with already existing programs. So, but yeah, we're in fundraising mode right now. So,
Dynamite. Thank you for all that explanation, Mike. And I'm curious if I can go back a little bit. You referred to a point around 2019 where you got the bug that you really wanted to get into the philanthropic world. What may that have looked like at the time? Was it certain experiences? Was it conversations?
Honestly, I think I just have to thank the community of Utah and all the nonprofit people that approached us and that we have good relationships with. I mean, I come from a family where we all are very aligned on our values and always have been on the same value and path and morals. And I think I want to thank the Utah community, because all the amazing fundraisers that always approached me. Yeah, I'm currently 30. So 2019, I was 25, 26, and people respected me still, and they treated me right, and they didn't just see it as an opportunity to try and get in with a foundation that's already difficult to get in with. They wanted opinions. They wanted to ask me questions, and that resonated with me really heavily. And kind of beyond that, we as a foundation decided that we were going to authorize discretionary funds for all the board members, and having the power to just meet somebody, feel the impact, go learn more about it, and then give them that direct impact with small amount of discretionary. But again, no ask, no vote, no, just if you have a unique project, you need funding, and I'm attached to it, I'm going to do it for you. So my dad and I's joke is I pretty much run out of my discretionary by the end of January every year. So I end up having to ask my sisters and my cousins if I can steal some of theirs. But I think between those two things, it just hit me that I love being a hero. I love trying to help people. And if, through this foundation, we've met and helped so many incredible organizations in Utah that if I can go that next step further, one thing that I really recognized about, coming from an amazing family in Utah that's very respected, and we're known for this philanthropic side, is our time is almost as valuable as our money. So just giving some of our time to people to go learn about their program and help them break down, hey, as a donor, I don't like when you do this, or I would love to see more of this. In Utah, we're a weird, funky bunch, and I think we really resonate with organizations that illustrate money in a good life cycle staying in Utah. So if I can see that I'm giving you money, and that money, you're going to have to spend it. You're going to have to buy things. You have to buy supplies. You're going to have to hire people. If that ecosystem just keeps the economy in Utah going, then that leverage of 2xing and 3xing your money, or at least extending it beyond just, we went and bought a bunch of equipment off of Amazon or something. It's like, no, we went and talked with farmers. We went into the wholesale stores here in Salt Lake that are going up and buying equipment from people. So no, I think those two things they happened very closely between COVID and 2018, 2019. So.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious a little bit to learn a little bit more about the 43 Institute, also known as the Ken Block Foundation, as you mentioned. Does 43, the number, have significance to Ken or to other?
It does, yeah. When Ken was racing, his number was 43.
Okay.
So yeah, so as we kind of looked at our branding and everything, and I wasn't a part of those early conversations, but there was definitely a very interesting conversation that happened between the board and Lucy Block, Ken's wife, and her kids as well. Ken and her kids, that not wanting to constrain an organization by being called the Ken Block Foundation, because I think they see ultimately that, you know, it is the legacy foundation, but it also will grow beyond what Ken maybe would have done. I mean, he had always talked with Lucy about starting a foundation, and I think they were actually probably really close. And given that they had a foundation up and running within just a couple of months of him passing, I think they were very much considering that they wanted to start, going the philanthropic route. But Ken had always been a philanthropist, and I mean, he's given to, Yosemite and a lot of dog organizations, but he was also just a seed funder. I mean, he would meet, young motivated people and help them out and give them advice. Again, similar to how I view myself in the community of Utah is like my time and my advice it can be more valuable than just the money. So he did that with a lot of amazing people, and the success stories are unbelievable. But he was a marketing guy. I mean, he was a marketing genius. He changed print media coming out of the 90s with DC into early 2000s, and he recognized talent and how they also had their own vision and view. So he gave them kind of enough rope to hang themselves with, and they ran for it. And they did some amazing, amazing print work. And as social media was kind of coming into its own, it really wasn't social media. It was more just online.
Yeah.
And then so when the foundation for the most part is Ken had a group of people that he supported, and he brought up from um, different backgrounds. And it wasn't always the 4-year student or the master's degree person. It was the person that was really motivated and showed the tenacity and wanted to work, and was willing to get in this interesting skater athlete world, but also be into cars and all that. But we call them motivated misfits. That's what Ken called his group, was motivated misfits. So 43 Institute exists to help unrepresented, untraditional, motivated misfits, and opening doors in motorsports, action sports, and creative arts. Because he was a film and photographer, he made these incredible movies on YouTube to promote his brands. But he also did screen printing and made his own shirts and his own hats. But then at the same time, he was an entrepreneur that grew multiple huge businesses. So we have a huge motorsports component because that's how most people know about Ken Block. But in the background, and as we continue to fundraise, we will be looking into a lot more creative arts opportunities, some more sports between action sports, snowboarding and skateboarding and skiing and all that. But at the end of the day, we've supported and bought over 200 helmets for youth camps at Woodward. We've got 6 scholarship recipients, 6 annual scholarship recipients at Salt Lake Community College getting automotive tech certificates. We've done Stoked with mentorship. Stoked is a program, and we've done a lot with like their mentorship and getting opportunities in front of kids that otherwise kind of would never hear about them. So as we grow the organization, our ties with all these huge, amazing companies that Ken had relationships with, the idea is to continue to build really solid job pathways that everybody can go give a scholarship, and scholarships are very meaningful, and we need to continue to support them. But I want to take that scholarship recipient, I want to get them mentored, and then I want to job place them where they want to go in one of our partners organizations. So if it's GoPro and they need a new marketing intern, paid, I'll never do anything unpaid. Everything has to be paid. We don't live in 1890. Everybody's got to be paid. So I want to try and create job pathways that are really visible. We're working with some of our closer donors like Rob Deerdeck, who has come from this huge, he was one of Ken's biggest and best success stories, and he's done a lot of mentorship, both for profit and nonprofit. And I mean, he humbled the hell out of me. I gave him a kind of my runaround of an idea of how I wanted to create these pathways, and he's done so much with mentorship. He gave me a lot of great advice. So we will be looking at how to kind of curate really unique job pathways that you can see, and you can see the steps on how to get there, and hopefully those are motivating enough to get people in positions you don't find on bulletin boards. These are positions that you have to know somebody, and we want to open that access up to everybody. The family themselves have talked about bringing on their own interns that are in Utah to try and just give them opportunities to work with them. I mean, they're rally racing, and they're doing horse shows, and they're all around the country doing awesome opportunities for people to get exposed to. So yeah, as we grow, the mission will just be continue to support and open up opportunities for motivated misfits.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Ken sounds like such a Renaissance man, and what a tribute to him and his vision that folks like you are committed to carrying out his legacy and through these invigorating programs, helping to create sustainable, well-paid jobs for the next generation and beyond, and to have that happen all in Utah. So kudos to you all.
Yeah, and we have a big pull in California. I mean, Ken is from California, and he went to Community College down in Southern California, and that's where he started screen printing with his partner Damon, and that's where they started DC in early '90s. So, but he came out here, I want to say 2011, and he just loved being outside. So, no, we will have a pull in California, but Woodward has campuses all around the country, so we'll work with them. We've done Montana pool service as well. So no, we're a bit of everywhere, but it being based in Utah is really unique. I encourage them to keep it here and not move it to California. I think we're positioned really well and we're central. We're a little hub. So no, I'm really excited that we're operating out of Utah, and there's such a great donor base here, and a lot of our friends also are here. Skull Candy is headquartered right in Park City, just down the street from our headquarters. So no, we've got some great connections here in Utah. So we're all around, but we're here for sure.
Wonderful. In addition to all of your other endeavors, Mike, you recently launched the philanthropy back channel, and I got acquainted with you on that on LinkedIn. I'm just curious. It's described as, quote, an anonymous place for anyone in Utah who works inside philanthropy, fundraising, nonprofit programs, housing, education, state systems, or community impact. And it's for people in those fields to share what they're seeing. I'm curious what led you to launch it and what's the response been?
I ask myself that every day. I don't know. I mean, coming from a family that's known in Utah, everybody's very careful to be very politically correct and very publicly, appropriate and all that, and it's great. I'm a little bit more off the cuff. I like saying what's on my mind, for better or worse sometimes. But I wouldn't say that I feel that it's some hierarchical duty that I try to share other people's voices because they can't hear it. Because I certainly don't think of myself that way, but I don't. It's not lost on me that I do have an opportunity to share for other people that can't share. They're in positions where if they were to publicly speak up against something, they could be fired. They could be kind of ostracized, and they wouldn't be able to find another position, which is, it's good and bad. I mean, I wanted to just have a place where if there was something, I hate the world of hot takes. I mean, hot takes have ruined conversation, and they've ruined opinions, they've ruined debate. But doesn't mean they're always wrong. And so luckily all the engagement that I've had on this anonymous page, which the biggest question I get is it really anonymous? And it is very anonymous. I'll try and maybe I'll screenshot what I see. But all I get is a date and then the comment. I see nothing else. I can't find anything else. And I can only respond once, which I found out the hard way. So I've had to try and pull it to LinkedIn, and hopefully maybe somebody will, if I didn't get to finish it, they would comment again. But no, I feel that there's a space for people that, one, they don't come from a philanthropic background, and I come from a small family foundation. So we don't have, outside hires on our board. We don't have, we hire an accountant to help us, and we hire a lawyer, and then we have Morgan Stanley to manage our money. But when it comes to any sort of decision making, check writing, vetting all of the, hundreds of nonprofit requests we get, that's all just done between us and our family. But as I mentioned in the beginning, this isn't our full-time job. So people that don't have that knowledge are rightfully frustrated with a lot of processes in philanthropy. And no mistake that there are philanthropists in Utah and philanthropists all around the country that put themselves on a pedestal where they don't want to be accessible to people, for better or worse. I don't want to be one of those people, but it doesn't mean that everybody that does that is wrong. There's so many nonprofits out there, and as before we started recording, I told you, it's unfortunate that we say no a lot more than we say yes. So I get why people have their restrictions in their foundations. The things that I don't understand that really upset me, and this is where I created this ecosystem or this opportunity to voice opinions, is I see family foundations that meet barely once a year. You
Mm.
can't throw in, like, unless you are invited by a board member, you are not allowed to not allowed. You're not even able to apply. And I just don't know how people operate like that. I mean, some of them are kind of the smaller, mid-sized foundations that aren't giving away multi-million-dollar grants. They're smaller and they just want to be really targeted and pick the one thing they want to just go down rather than out. And
Yes.
um, but it's still tricky to me. I don't like that. I mean, I don't like that about philanthropy. And at the end of the day, and again, this comes from somebody from my background, not anybody else's, but it's not my money, right? I mean, this was generational wealth that has been pooled into a foundation that isn't coming to us. It doesn't belong to my dad. It doesn't belong to my grandfather. It doesn't belong to my sisters, my cousins. It's none of ours. We're just in charge of giving it out. And I don't know why that's so hard sometimes. Like, we are in this position with this foundation to give money away.
Yes.
If I was a wealthy individual that had a big thriving business and I needed a tax break, I don't know what that's like. So maybe you do have a different opinion than I do. But at the end of the day, our foundations exist to give goddamn money away. And it's really frustrating sometimes. But and this I talk about this a lot on my LinkedIn, which has just been a brain dump. I get unique situations and conversations with amazing fundraisers and total newbie fundraisers, and then you know institutional life-changing individuals like families members of mine, my stepfather, my extended family, other amazing philanthropists in Utah, Art Swindle from the University of Utah, just incredible people, and that knowledge should be shared a little bit, right?
Yes.
They can only talk to so many people. So that ecosystem exists for people that can't put their voice out there, and I get an opportunity to respond to them and try and give them either my perspective or post about it so other people can kind of see, hey, you're not the only one feeling this way.
Totally.
But also there are things you don't know about. I don't, I still am I've been in fundraising 5 years now, and I still don't know everything about it. Of course, it takes forever. You'll never learn everything, and the ecosystem is always changing, and AI is changing
Yeah.
a lot of things. So no, I get myself in the weeds on a few things, and I don't have the answer to everything. But I'm happy to always share other people's voice, and be an outlet for them to voice frustrations. And there's some organizations in Utah very recently that have been doing some very questionable public statements and planning and saying things in front of donors that uh, I've been supporting for years, and now I will never support again.
Mm.
And it's good to see that when I post about a few of these things, I will have many messages, many people coming up to me at events, meetings in my office with people just thanking me for voicing an opinion because they can't.
Yes.
So yeah, there's no answer as to why. That's why.
Yeah. Well, thank you for going into that, Mike. Earlier in the conversation, you mentioned the generational foundation and how the values cross generations don't change. I'm just wondering, with how your great grandfather Willard Eccles founded the Eccles Foundation decades ago, and as new members, new generations come on as board members, is there anything you can share or discuss about different interests that new generations of your family have? The values again don't change. Maybe the needs, the funding interests may change, and maybe I think for our audience that'd be fascinating to hear.
Yeah, of course. And let me make a clarification. The values don't change or have not changed in our foundation. They doesn't mean they can't change in other foundations.
Yes.
For us, the foundation was set up on the values that we still very much care through today, and it's public. It's information. You can go see where we give money. We are very big contributors to women's health and equal rights and trans rights. We have supported Planned Parenthood for years. We will continue to do so. we've always supported giving back to research. We over the last few years, and even my cousin's foundations, which are just absolutely enormous. We like when they go to use their money for the brick and mortar, because I want to give mine to research. I want to give it to labs. I want to give it directly to students or professors or individuals. So, we kind of have stayed away from brick and mortar. As the generations have kind of, wouldn't say change, but new members come in, as we get of age where we can be added to the board. But as you said, environments change, places change. A lot of our gift giving was in Ogden, and my sisters and my cousins, we didn't grow up in Ogden. We have, apart from my grandfather and my grandmother living up there, and my grandmother passed away about 6-7 years ago. My grandfather passed away just over a year and a half ago. We don't have a tie to Ogden. It doesn't mean that we don't want to give to Ogden, but I'm meeting new organizations here in Salt Lake, minutes from where I'm sitting. So those are the people I want to go and care, work with, and I care about. So it sucks when we've had a lot of conversations over the last year and a half since my grandfather passed away, going, okay, well, he very much cared about these organizations and he supported them very well. But I think it's maybe time to give an opportunity for another organization to step in, and I think we've got other initiatives we want to go help. It is never it's so rarely in our organization do we say no, don't ever ask us again. I mean, it's very rare. My father vets almost every single application that comes through, and he's got such a good pulse on these things. He knows when something doesn't align and aligns. And it's worth going back just a little bit. We're closed. You can't go apply online. You have to get an email sent out. But as we've come into the board, and as we all meet our own, I work for nonprofits. I run a nonprofit. My cousin Ashley also for years has worked at a nonprofit and runs a nonprofit. My sister Madison sat on the board of the Natural History Museum and was the chair to their gala. And now I took her position. So we're very involved with nonprofits, and that means you kind of have limited time, and you obviously have limited funds. But we give over 100 grant we give to over 100 different organizations in Utah every year. And that means some of our gifts are 5 or 10,000. Some of them are multi-year gifts. University of Utah will always take a large chunk of our money. But we've kind of evaluated. This comes from my stepfather's side of being, president of these amazing universities. I know the power of universities, and I know the power of their return on your investment. And more often or not, when you give to a university, and I think this speaks for a lot of philanthropists, the reason that they go so heavy into higher education is always leveraging your money for more money, always.
Yes.
And I mean, even when we were in Texas A&M with my stepfather, there was a circumstance where he 25x'd every dollar that came in. So I've seen some enormous return on investments just because you're going into higher education, which is not, doesn't mean that food organizations that are just making meals and handing out, they are not 2xing your dollar is now automatically 30 cents because they've already spent it, right?
That's right.
So there's room for both. I guess the point I'm trying to make is we evaluate them every year and just decide, what did they do last year with our money? Was the impact recorded? And was it illustrated to us that they're still on the right track, and we want to continue to support them? And doesn't mean that if somebody goes down or COVID messed up so many organizations and executive directors came and went or died. I mean, we had a few amazing executive directors that unfortunately were passed away due to COVID, and that organization will crumble, or it takes a couple of years for them to get back on their feet. So again, it's very rarely like, no, you guys messed that up, we're not giving back.
Right.
Because again, at the end of the day, this is money that we are giving away because that's the whole point. So it's not like I gave you 20 and then you spent it on something I said not to, and that was like $20 out of my pocket. No. It is a different circumstance. So we try not to just X out organizations when they struggle. In fact, that's when we try to give them a little more time or understand a little bit more about their situation. But we'll push back. We'll have one thing that's been interesting over the last couple of years is the amount of organizations that will apply where we thought we were pretty clear on our, the communication coming in and the invite going out to them. Hey, yeah, well, we'd love to apply for 25 or 40 grand. Great, why don't you shoot for 25 this year, and then we'll look at next year, and then we'll see it come in for like 50 grand.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it happens a lot. I mean, even in old school that none of us have we have not gone to this school since we were in grade school.
Yeah.
They all of a sudden hit us up out of nowhere for $1 million.
Oof.
And it's like, wow, okay, that is a third of what we give away for the entire year, and we haven't even talked with you for a good 5 or 10 years. So,
Yikes.
yeah, you never know what gets lost in translation, but we try not to let that. It's helpful for when I went and worked at a large institution like Solid Community College. It is such a territorial place, and there's people that are in charge of so many little silos that getting every conversation and everything lined up really well and in the system, so when a fundraiser reaches out, they know nobody else reached out. It's impossible. I mean, it takes a lot of work. So it's good to have my perspective on the board. Like, yeah, sorry, I don't think they meant to do that. That was probably just an accident. But yeah.
That was riveting, Mike. Thank you for sharing all of that. And speaking of perspective, as you just did, that is a great segue to my last question here. I, follow you on LinkedIn. This is our first time ever connecting. I'm envisioning that you are in a very rare position with that perspective you just talked about. The foundation affiliations, individual philanthropy, your work with the 43 Institute, working directly in fundraising, the network that you're building and already have with fundraisers and private funders. I'm just curious, maybe like the human element side of it. How do you absorb and process and proactively, reactively respond to various voices from these communities, the challenges that they have, the questions, maybe possible solutions that you're hearing from your circles as you become much more involved in the breadth of your involvement in philanthropy?
Yeah, and I am not a perfect person. I am a bad note taker. I'm bad at regurgitating information once I've read it. So as I work with so many great people, and I end up in so many conversations, I've been trying to be very diligent about note taking or getting the opportunity to try and record meetings if I can,
Sure.
which is tough nowadays, but most people don't seem to mind. This is where AI kind of has come in for me in the biggest way, is because, again, I just struggle to regurgitate info. So if I'm in a meeting, I'll try and type up either in an Apple Notes or straight into an AI browser, and just say, hey, this is going to be a brain dump, and I just need it. Just please organize it, because
Yeah.
I'm too dyslexic, I'm too ADHD. So that's where I really use AI as a tool for myself, because I know where I'm good at, what I'm bad at, and it's been helpful. It's not a perfect solution by any means, and you have to be really careful about rereading everything. I think that's a struggle. Is AI gives you a lot of confidence that it did it the first time really well, and it didn't. So no, I go through notes really frequently, but the most helpful thing for me, and I'm sure most people can relate to this, I hate taking a break because my brain turns off, and then I'll go a week without being practiced in this every day, and I just feel like, do I know how to do my job? Like, I've completely forgotten. They should fire me. I need to go back to doing construction or something. So I love getting a break because I need the mental break, but I hate the break for what it does to my work process. So I try to stay in it. I've been getting better about 6 p.m. rolls around, unless it's a really critical thing. I'm not going to get to it until 10 a.m. I try to give myself a little bit of time in the morning to also kind of reset. I try not to look at the news, as nobody should, but it's important, and you need to be up to date on everything. So I try to give some my time to go over the news. But no, I mean, managing my own time, my own personal mental health has been important.
Yes.
Being married to an incredible person that I do not deserve also will do that to you. You try to make sure your priorities are straight and you're always present. So again, keeping those hours protected. But yeah, I hate being unpracticed. I really luckily I have an amazing wife, as I mentioned, who when we're traveling, I mean, we go to New York a few times a year, and she knows I'm going to be on my phone. She knows I'm going to be making calls. She knows that we're going to have to find a cool coffee shop quiet. We're going to have to sit down for an hour because I'm going to get on a call. And she's always down to ride with that. So that's good. But no, I think I had an opportunity to speak at the University of Utah. And AI is, of course, a part of the questions. And how do we use it? And how is it a good tool? And how is it a bad tool? And, it's a bad tool just like any new tool that people abuse. But
Yeah.
when the calculator came out, the world probably thought it was ending, and they said nobody's ever going to regurgitate, how to do math, simple equations. And in practical aspect, how often do I really need to sit down with a notepad and pen and paper and know how to do, long division? I just don't that often.
Right.
And even if I did, I'm still going to want to fact check it. So no, AI for me is a tool, and it should be a tool for everybody, but you've got to learn how to use it appropriately, and you've got to make sure that it is not doing your work for you. Because if you are sending out emails or texts or projects that you have not gone through multiple times. I mean, just like how you used to do it in grade school, where you would go through a rough draft and then edit one, edit two, and a final draft. If you're not doing that with AI, you're no better than your elementary school self that could barely
Yes.
read. I still can't read. So no, I mean, AI is a tool. It's our new modern calculator. If you use it correctly, it's an amazing, for me, it's actually been a good learning experience. I've been able to kind of brainstorm things that I haven't been able to brainstorm before, because sometimes my ideas are hitting me at 11 p.m. at night, and I can't be texting my stepdad or somebody else to help, bounce some things off of.
Sure.
But yeah, for me, most part, it's note taking. I've really been trying to get better at note taking and expanding on ideas, but end all be all, the best tool I have, and it's something that I recognize I'm so privileged to have, is I have the best connections that I can reach out to any day. And as soon as I have a challenging, in my conversation with Rob Deerdeck recently, immediately got on the phone with my stepfather, and I'm like, I just got torn apart. I got taken to the cleaners. I thought I had a good idea, and this is what he came back with at me, and I need to just get it out there so you can help me understand, not necessarily how did I go wrong, because at the end of the day, if you chase down your ideas from start to finish, you're going to learn a lot, even if you have to scrap the whole idea. So when I was getting the feedback on some of the things that we were brainstorming, best thing I could do was call a good connection that's practice in this world, and just say, not necessarily where did I go wrong, but like where did I get my wires crossed, or how did I not necessarily put these two pieces together, and how do you now formulate all this notes and actually go redo your plan so it doesn't feel like you just wasted a bunch of time. So I reach out to people a lot. I will have calls and emails and texts back and forth just to try and brainstorm, learn. But you have to like it. I like it. I like learning, from all these people around me, because they've just done incredible work. So that's been my biggest tool, and not very few people have that. So one, I don't waste it, and I use it a lot. But it's not lost on me that that's a difficult tool, because there's not a lot of people with that access.
It's true. Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much. This has been a really enjoyable and energetic conversation. I appreciate you making time today, first and foremost, and then sharing the enthusiasm, the passion you have for the philanthropic sector and things that you're observing that we can improve upon and help our society in various ways. So thank you for what you do for our sector.
Of course. No, thank you for having me on it. This is my first podcast, so
Wonderful.
I appreciate the opportunity, but I get passionate, I get energetic about it, but that's why I'm here. I didn't do this with construction, so that's as soon as people kept telling me, like, God, you really get into it. You're like, oh, I should probably listen to that voice in my head then, huh? But no, the philanthropic space and nonprofit space is incredible, and there's so many, I say arguments, but they're really just conversations. But there's so many conversations to be had about, what is good philanthropy, what is bad philanthropy, what is good nonprofit, what is bad nonprofit. Does philanthropy exist because government falls short? If government was perfect, would you even need philanthropy? There's room for both in there, right? nonprofits are incredible, and a few of the great conversations I had, and this is like a little side note, when Utah is the number one philanthropic state in the country, and it's always debatable if the church plays a role in that or not. But regardless of the church, we're hugely into our philanthropy. And we had a guest speaker come in, and he spoke about spend downs. You've got this LDS Mormon culture in Utah, and then you've got a guy from California talking about spend downs. And I loved it. I mean, I ate it all up. And I don't even necessarily agree with a spend down, but I just love the idea of challenging, how impactful are you being right now if you spread out a gift over 5 or 10 years versus giving the whole gift right now? I mean, really measure your impact and the difference. And, I think a lot of people in the room, and we've talked about the generations of philanthropists, older generations are pat on the back, trust base, friends, and it was beautiful. It was such a great, beautiful way of giving, but it also led to bad reporting and foundations or organizations getting away with too much. And one thing that was very interesting, it was the CEO of the Schwab Foundation, and he I have not fact checked this, but it seems to resonate with me, and he seemed to be somebody that would have a very accurate answer. Is so disproportionately fraud in nonprofits and philanthropy comes from the philanthropist, not the nonprofit. And saying that in a room with a bunch of donors in Utah was like, but he's right. I mean, you people end up with tax strategies and end up with ways to try and find their way out. And there's nothing, that's a whole other conversation. But no, the fact that Utah is facilitating conversations with a lot of different outside people. We had a great gentleman, I'm totally blanking on his name, but he's a founder of Boldly Go Philanthropy, which is a consulting firm that helps nonprofits and helps foundations that they need strategy planning, and they need to offset some of their, they can't afford a full-time tax person or fundraiser, or even big boards that need more help. They help that. But there's a lot of conversations happening in the Utah space about how do we be better philanthropists? How do we communicate better? As I mentioned, there's organizations that I've put on blast recently, and it's interesting to see how they're approaching my friends and what they're saying to them and what they're saying to me, and how they don't always align.
Interesting.
So we're, it's not necessarily, we don't talk to try and catch organizations doing something wrong. It's actually quite the opposite. It's to try and learn about what other organizations are doing that we may not be hearing about, and being a better voice for the community. So the Gail Miller Foundation and Julie Ramos and her whole team are just incredible people. And this year we've got a really unique opportunity where they're setting up a whole new committee for philanthropists in Utah and nonprofits to partner together and create a fund. And it probably will operate similar to a DAF, but much more direct impact, much more involved the community. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But no, I love the landscape of it all, and I hope all fundraisers don't get discouraged. But yeah, I mean, everybody's human. It's a tough world right now, so we all have to be kind to each other and give patience. So anyway, no, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Anytime.
Yeah, my pleasure, Mike. Thank you so much, and look forward to continuing to follow you on LinkedIn and encourage others to as well. And for our audience, thank you for your support. This is our 170th episode, almost the last 4 years. And looking ahead to 2026, Mike's conversation will air in early March. And you can find Mike Denker's conversation on the normal platform channels, YouTube for the video, Podbean and Spotify for the audio. And thanks to my 100th guest, Luis Diaz of WISE, and the Donor Participation Project. He's sponsoring my website, peopleinfundraising.wordifysites.com. So Mike, I look forward to sharing your conversation with the world at that point, and have a great rest of your day.
Hey, Tim, appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I appreciate what you do, because you're trying to do what I'm also trying to do. And it's elevating voices in this world. And it's a great thing. So thanks for having me on. Have me on anytime. I'm always confrontational and loud. So
I love it. Thank you very much, Mike.